Record on the cloud. Welcome, everybody. It's a pleasure to see you all this morning. I'd like to take a moment. I'm Sarah Joy, the president of the PWNCR, Professional Women's Network of Costa Rica, and I'm looking forward to introducing Gail Nystrom. She is the founder and executive director of the Costa Rican Humanitarian Foundation. It's an amazing foundation doing work to help people who are in poverty, to help alleviate poverty, and she has a vision for even eradicating poverty in Costa Rica. So I'm thrilled she's here. 24 years the foundation has been in action, and she's done it's been I guess her life's work, right? You've been so dedicated to it, and you've helped so many people through it, and we're just very excited to hear more about the history, as well as to hear how we can help.
Okay, well, hi everybody. I'm glad to see you. Some familiar faces are here, some new faces, and that's great. So I'm gonna just spend a little bit of time explaining where I come from, because I believe a lot in the impact of history and childhood on what you do in your life. I was born and raised on the East Coast of the United States. I was raised in a very 1950s home where there was always food on the table, a beautiful home to live in, activities, education, all kinds of advantages. But we were Presbyterian, and so we would go to the Presbyterian church, and the Presbyterian church has a big emphasis on helping your fellow man. So I did this. I helped my fellow man from as long as I can remember, really all my life. When John Kennedy came up with the Peace Corps idea, I was 13. I'm aging myself here. And I said, wow, he made an organization just for me. I mean, that is exactly what I want to do with my life. So when I was 27 years old, I was living in Denver and had recently gotten divorced from my short marriage. And I applied to Peace Corps, and I said, since I speak fluent French, this is my thinking back then, since I speak fluent French and all the poor people live in Africa, I want to go to a country in Africa where I can help the poor people. So I get the notification from the Peace Corps, you're going to be sent to Costa Rica. And honest to God, I said, oh, an island off the west coast of Africa. How exciting. And I had to go to the National Geographic to find out where this place was, because remember, there were no computers and Waze or none of that back then. And so I came to Costa Rica like probably one of the most clueless individuals with the biggest heart you can imagine. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Luckily, I came to a country that was very benign and very accepting and very kind. And back then, I don't know how many of you were in Costa Rica in the 1970s, 1980s, but it was amazing. You know, they still had, oops, I forgot. They still had, what do you call, ox carts riding on the dirt roads. Men still rode horses to work. I was lucky enough to work with the Minister of Education here, because I was the only person in the country with a master's degree. And so it was like a big deal. So we would go with the Minister of Education car out to the far reaches of San Carlos and the Atlantic coast. And oh dear, I thought I turned it off. Sorry. So we would travel in the car of the ministry and stay overnight in these little funky hotels, and I would give workshops about how to teach special needs kids, because my degree was in special education. But then I said, you know what? This is not Peace Corps. Peace Corps has to be like living in a grass shack and using a toilet that was outside the house. So I applied for an internal transfer and I got transferred to the village of Amubri. I don't know if anybody's heard of it or not. Amubri. It's up in Talamanca. And oh my goodness. So here I go with my little suitcase and my white hat, getting off the little bush plane that we arrived in. And when I got down out of the plane and the pilot cut the motor, it was the sound of silence. It was something that I had never experienced in my life. Because in Amubri in 1979, 1980, there was no such thing as a car or a machine or electricity. And so there I go. So I go and I live these months in Amubri working with the people. And when Peace Corps was over, I was heartbroken. I did not want to leave those people. But Peace Corps is over. What do you do? Where do you go? Well, I went back to my parents' house and I was pretty much in culture shock. I had a really rough time readjusting to the States. And so I decided to come back to Costa Rica, much to my family's wonderment and maybe a bit of dismay. But I got back here and I got invited, first of all, to make a living. I worked at Country Day School as a tutor because of the master's degree. So there you go. That paper served me very well. So I got good tutoring that paid well. And then in the other times, I got asked to help run a program for refugees from El Salvador. Back in those days, there was a revolution going on in El Salvador, and the people came to Costa Rica fleeing for their lives. Little children would tell me the story of how helicopters chased them, shooting machine gun fire at them. It was a total political awakening. I say I lost my political virginity in that time. And the more I knew, the more I wanted to do. And the more I did, the more I saw a result. And the more result I saw, the more I wanted to do. So I worked for 10 years with the Salvadorian refugees. And when that was over, I started working with street kids from San Jose. Street kids are internal refugees. The only difference between a refugee from another country and an internal refugee is the kids here did not get bombed out of their houses. They had to leave their houses because of sexual abuse by males in the community, in their family, drug abuse by their parents, alcoholism by their parents, interfamily violence, domestic violence, and femicide of the moms. And so I started working with that group of kids. And statistically, and this is proven by the Ministry of Seguridad Pública, the year that I started working with those kids, crime on the streets in San Jose decreased significantly because I took them all home. I took 40 of them back to the foundation headquarters in Ciudad Colón. And we did a lot of work, a lot of therapeutic work with them. And the great thing is, there's a lot of sadness. A lot of those kids got murdered. But I have now on a WhatsApp page 7 of the surviving kids of that original group. And they're all married, have children, have jobs. And it is so cool because I lost track of them for a couple of years. And then we started to find each other. And now every morning we talk and they tell me what they're doing and I tell them what I'm doing. It's amazing. They're just wonderful, wonderful kids. So what happened next? In around 1995, I said, I'm doing all this work and I'm doing it kind of informally and who's helping and whatever. So I decided to form a foundation. In those days, there was only one other foundation in this country, which was the Artias Foundation, which President Artias formed to channel or use his Nobel Prize money. So I formed a foundation, and I said, well, I need a motto. I need a mission statement. So here's the mission statement. And this is still true today. It's to support at-risk populations so they can improve the quality of their lives. It's so far evolved from, I'm going to Africa to help the poor people. It's a totally different take on how to evolve and make change for people. Because you partner with the person, you don't tell the person what to do, or, anyways. And then I said, but, that's all well and good, but what about having a second mission, which is to educate people, providing good services and financial aid so that they can make better choices in the future about how to use their resources. Because I thought about myself. I learned so much by working with the people, and I use my resources in a totally different way from what I would have done if I'd gone to Africa in 1978. So that was when we started receiving volunteers. And the volunteers would come, and it was just me and 5 volunteers, and we go in my van and we go visit the communities, or we would do some work with projects, or we would build. And then it took a life of its own. And before the pandemic, I was seeing 7 volunteer groups a day. It was way too much. And we built, through our foundation and the volunteers, we have built over 300 structures, infrastructures like community centers, houses for single women, classrooms, libraries, computer centers, schools. We built 5 centers of our own and had people running them with a model, an education model that we developed. And the volunteers came and they get the talk, sort of what I'm giving you all, and then they would go out and do a thing, a hands-on something, making bunk beds. We did 4,000 bunk beds in the Carpio, painting houses. We painted 3,000 houses in the Carpio, bringing in plants. We brought in plants to the same 3,000 houses. We put floors, cement floors on the houses down by the river where they still have dirt floors. We put roofs on, I don't know even now how many houses, but that's the kind of thing that the volunteers would come and do. And then they always worked with the kids. They always had a component where they worked with the kids, had a nice lunch, and then had theater presentations by people of the community, which would tell the story of the people of the community in their own words, in their own way. So that was our extensive volunteer program. So when I knew that I was orienting volunteers, I somehow got downloaded with this little vision of how poverty happens. And it starts, if I had a whiteboard, I would put little dots on the whiteboard and I would say, these are the hunter-gatherers of how humanity started. We all came from hunter-gatherer societies where there was an equal balance between the nature and the needs of the people. And then the people realized that if they were to go by a river, because there we'd have water all the time, and camp, they could control more their food intake and have a better quality of life. So that's where we have like sort of the indigenous way of circling their culture. And there's no real elected official that's at the head. It's the person who is usually seen as the wisest or the most capable of giving ideas to the community. That was very benign and very nice. But then somehow we got into trouble because then we got into what I call the evil triangle, but the spike. And the problem with the triangle way of organizing is that you have a triangle, and up here, you have 2% of your population that is in control of 80% of the resources of the country or the place. Then right below them is the army, which is paid by them and supported by them to keep that top peak in power. And then you have maybe a small middle class, and then all the rest of the people are just living day to day. And when I was working with the Salvadorians, I hadn't thought about this process, but I did know that in El Salvador, 80% of the land was owned by 2% of the people. And that the other let's say 70% of the people were living in poverty. And I had never in my life met someone, an adult, who did not know how to read. I was like, when I started working with the Salvadorians and now the Nicaraguans, I'm flabbergasted that there could be people who don't know how to read in the Western Hemisphere today. So, so what do? So I went to work in this community of La Carpio. I really was led there. I had been working in Santa Ana and all around the country. And one of my volunteers said to me, Jamie Paul, her name was Jamie Paul, and she said, Gail, I want to work in La Carpio. I've heard there's a lot of interesting things going on there. And I go, oh, La Carpio, oh my God, no one goes to La Carpio. It's so dangerous. You can't go there alone. I'll go with you. And so the two of us drove in there, and this was 25 years ago. Jamie is now a doctor, by the way, and has her own medical practice. But anyway, so we drove in there, and I was like so nervous. And we went to what was kind of a school where there were some kids, and we taught them how to wash their hands and how to brush their teeth. And then we left, and I said, we got out of there alive. Wow. As time went on, we went in more and more often and got to know the school and the kids and the community. We built 3 buildings in La Carpio, and we ran all 3 of them. But in the first building that I built, which was 25 years ago, one day I went in there with my car, and the streets are really narrow there, and there's very deep gullies because it's all rainwater gullies. And I backed my car into one of these gullies, and I'm gonna die. This is it. And all of a sudden, all these guys started walking over to me, and I said, I'm dead. Who do I? There was no cell phone back then. Who do I call? What do I do? I don't know. I'm gonna die. And they picked my car up and took it out of the gully, and I said, oh, thank you very much. Bye-bye. And they go, bye, Giselle. They call me Giselle. Bye, Giselle. And I drove away. Oh my God. So in all my work, there's a lot of initial fear of the unknown and wondering what's going to happen and how it's going to be. But I find that as long as I am very positive and ignore, like I worked for a lot of years in the Carpio with the guys on the street. These are guys who came to La Carpio from Nicaragua with their moms when they were like 3, 4, and 5 years old. They went through the very inadequate education system of the time. They graduated 6th grade. They repeated 2nd grade 2 times, 4th grade 3 times, and they finally got out of school. And there was nothing for these guys to do. So they would go and stand on the corner and hang out and smoke dope. And this was how La Carpio got the reputation of being full of gangs. They weren't gangs, they were just bored guys trying to figure out what to do with their life. So I would walk up to them, because in those days I walked around a lot, and I would see them, and I would see them acting all cool and stoned, and they all go, they have this look about them, scowling. And I'd walk over to them and went, hey guys, what's new? And all of a sudden they'd break out into a smile. And then we would talk. And I taught them about safe sex, and I taught them about venereal disease and AIDS, and finding a partner that was worthwhile, and finding a life, looking for a life that was better for them. And they never did anything to me that was negative. They were wonderful. So that's just an example. Where am I now? Okay, so through this work every day in the Carpio, and also I must say I went back to work with the indigenous quite a bit too. I said there's got to be a model. There's got to be a diagram, because we have the hunter-gatherers, we have the circle, we have the triangle. What comes next? And I said, actually, the development that I've observed is like a spiral. Why? Because in my culture, in the United States, it's a step ladder that you go up step 1, step 2, step 3, and the ladder of success, or it's a stairway to your future. And if you fail at one rung of the ladder, you're down, you're out. But a spiral, think of a slinky, okay? It goes like this. And it's a gentler movement upwards. And if you slip back, it's easier to get back together and go back up. Also, a spiral is communal. Only one person fits on a step ladder and run. Many people fit on that part of the spiral together, and they help each other. And that's what we did. That's what our foundation did in the Carpio. So Sarah, do you have that visual?
I do. That's beautiful. Let me see if I can share that screen.
Okay. We cooked this up a couple ways ago. All right, so here it is.
Okay, good.
Thank you. That's okay. Now I don't see. Okay, just like that. That's good. So I thought to myself, what do we do with the people that we work with? And I realized that we've been giving out food since the day I set foot in Costa Rica and in the Carpio, thousands and thousands of basic food baskets. Because if you don't have food, you don't have energy. Try going to a meeting without having your breakfast, you know? So we have a program that provides food for right now 2,000 people a week in partnership with the Auto Mercado. And guys, if you go shopping at the Auto Mercado, shop, spend money, support them. Because we receive every day 1 million colones of food that cannot be sold, shelf life expired, like a lettuce that has a little wilty leaf, or a tomato that has a little bump in it. And we get this every day, and we bring it back to the Carpio. And we make baskets, little bundles of food, and the people come and receive it. We've been doing this with Auto Mercado for 10 years. And during this time of pandemic, of COVID, literally, it was the only food that the people had was what we could give them, because none of them had their jobs. Everyone got fired because they were from the Carpio, and obviously the Carpio is a dangerous place, and obviously they're all going to get COVID, which, by the way, they didn't. But you know, people were nervous and letting their domestic employees go, and it's been really hard. But we provide this food. If you come to our center today, you will see 60 people with distancing, with masks, waiting, and then we give them the food and they go home, and each of those 60 people have 5 or more people in their home living there that they're helping to support. So that's the food part. Then we have the housing part. The first houses in the Carpio were cardboard. People came, it was a abandoned coffee plantation. So they came in and said, this is mine, right here, boom, boom. And there's like this little tiny plot, and they put some cardboard up and some plastic for a roof. And then when they went out and got work, because back then they did get work, they built some metal, zinc. You know what zinc is? Corrugated metal. They built their houses of corrugated metal, sometimes used. And then they got to building their houses with drywall. and then cement, and then bricks. And now in the Carpio, there's 25,000 people. There's 3,000 houses, and the majority of them are now cement with a roof that doesn't leak, with a floor that is made of cement. We have worked with hundreds and hundreds of houses to do that. Okay, so then we get to the part where it says health care. No one in this community could afford the 10,000 colones for the CAHA, the Social Security health system. They couldn't afford it. So we helped them to get in the system. And if we couldn't, 4 times a year, we had these amazing medical people coming down. And they would see 500 people a day with medical care, eye care, and dentistry. Then comes the pandemic. Nobody comes anymore. So they're all without medical care now. But we did do it for years. We did it. So then I said to myself, okay, so the lady comes in and she says, I have a headache. I have constant headaches. So the doctors would give her an aspirin or ibuprofen and say, okay, you're done, go home. And I would be meeting with these women and I would say, wonder why they have a headache. And it turns out they don't drink enough water. It turns out they're having to deal with stress of 3 little children with no food. It turns out that they hit their head 2 years ago and they still have repercussions from it. So I started to teach how we can take care of our own bodies. And man, when we got to teaching about birthing, the women literally believed, well, one of the questions that we got was, how does my baby breathe in my stomach? Honest to God, that was a real question that we got when we started our education program, health education program. Oh, so then we started teaching about body, or what do they call systems, digestive, respiratory, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then we started teaching them what they could do to help to not get sick and to take care of themselves when they do get sick. I do a lot of touching when, like I had a lady in the other day, she said, my knee hurts so much, I can't walk. And so I taught her to put her hand on her knee and send good energy to her knee and to keep her knee up and to, be gentle with herself. There's a whole thought process involved with it. And so they go away and their knee doesn't hurt anymore because they just need the love. That's all. So then I say, okay, we need to get people trained to become economically self-sufficient, because now they've got food, they've got housing, they've got health, they've got education, more or less. Oh, wait, I skipped. So education, that's when we started working with basic reading, basic math, strengthening your skills. And during the pandemic, we have not stopped one day to provide education for our kids on What's Up. When the ministry said close all the places, we did What's Up, computer. And then we started to see 5 kids at a time, 10 kids at a time. Yesterday we had 35, but all with a mask and all distancing. So then we go to training, which is how do you sew a purse that someone would buy? Here is an example. I'll show you. This is my cell phone hangy thing, because I always have to have my phone near me. It rings all the time, as you know. So I have it right here. And then they're also making one with a key where you could put your keys in. So we tried to think of anything we could that would allow people to sell something. Cafe Brit, can we go back to the spiral again? Sarah, thank you. Cafe Brit has been incredible with us. They helped us set up the sewing workshop. They got us making products with their coffee bags with their logo on it. I mean, the amount of products that we produce for them and the amount of donation they made to the women was incredible. And then the pandemic, and Cafe Brit closes all its shops. They're not selling anything, and so they're not doing any orden de compra. They're not doing any purchase orders with us. But we had 7 women sewing for Cafe Brit for more than 10 years, and they did great. Anyways, so we do other micro enterprises like who making tortillas or making soup to sell. We give them the first bag of masa, like a big sack of masa, and then they never come back to ask again because they become independent. Okay, then community development is everything that we do. I mean, that includes everything. So then we get to empathy, because this is where I started working with my volunteers and people that I talk to. I realized that in the last years, it looks to me like we have what I call empathy deficit disorder, especially with some of the politicians that are speaking publicly. There's not a lot of empathy. What there is disparagement. And so I thought, well, what is empathy? Empathy is you see a situation and you feel, oh, that's really sad. And then you say, my thoughts and prayers go with you. Which is good. That's good, because you're sending positive energy and trying to help the person or the situation as much as you can. But there's something higher than that. And it's what I call with passion, I walk a mile in your shoes. So what does that mean? Well, I'm going to tell a story about my family. My mom died 10 years ago. I counsel people, the Salvadoran refugees, their mothers were massacred, their mothers were raped in front of them. I mean, it was awful. And I counseled them and I said, oh, that's really sad. That's really hard. And then when my own mother died, it totally threw me for a loop. I had no idea what you would feel because, well, thank God it only happens once in your life, right? But it was awful. I was standing, I came back from the funeral in New Jersey. I came back to Costa Rica. I was standing on the street corner in the Carpio, and I stood there and I looked around and I said, what do I do now? Nothing makes sense anymore. I have I couldn't even define it. And one of the grandmothers of the Carpio, who was a Nicaraguan refugee, saw me standing there, and she came over to me and she just hugged me. And I said, that was all I needed. And then another one, which will get me crying really a lot, was one of the street boys' mother was murdered in front of his sister. And Abraham was in jail. And he was 22 at the time when I came back from my funeral with my mom. And he called me because I can't call them. And I said, Abraham, I need a special visit with you. And so they let us do it. They give you special visits. And that boy walked out into the room where you can meet. And he looked at me and he just ran over to me and he just hugged me and we cried and we cried and we cried. That's compassion. It's sharing and knowing, I know what you know and you know what I know. I know what you feel and you feel what I feel. I do this all the time because I have this all the time. And the people do it now with each other. They truly compassion each other. Someone comes in to get food, an older woman, which in this culture, older means 50 or over 50, right? And they come in and they're weak and they're sad and they're lonely and this and that. And they come in and we give them this food, but we don't just give them the food. We say, Doña Fulana, how is things going? Oh, that's a pretty blouse you have on. My goodness, I'm so glad to see you. That is how you compassion people. So go back to the spiral again. Sorry, I gotta keep on target here. Okay. So then with the volunteers, when I give this talk, I say, okay, so let's say that we, who are very fortunate, have no problem with food, housing, blah, 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 blah. And we get up to the empathy part, we're working on it. We get to the compassion part. If we become aware of what it means, then we go to right action. Where did the name right action come from? I have no idea. But one day I was giving the talk and I said, right action. And I put capital R, capital A. And one of the kids, the volunteers, said, Ra, the sun god of Egypt. Go figure. What does the sun do? It shines the light in all the dark places. So if we go through this process, we get to compassion, we get to right action, then we become like the sun. And it doesn't matter where you do it. I tell the kids, go out your front door, go around the corner, and you're going to find a dog that doesn't have a home. You're going to find a park that has a bunch of weeds in it. You're going to find maybe a homeless person sitting there trying to get money to eat. So you can take this spiral model and use it to analyze any situation. And then you take right action. And it doesn't mean you have to go out and donate $10,000 to the dog shelter. It means you go to the shelter and play with the doggy, or give the doggy a little toy or a little blankie. I saw one the other day. Children are reading to dogs in the shelters. It takes an hour a week, an hour a month. It's not a big deal. So to finish out with this part of this, there's another level above this, which only it's hard to be there to get there, which I call the angel nature. And the angel nature means I forgive the person who hurt me. And we see this over and over again with these young Black youth that are being killed, and their mothers, who are, very religious ladies, say, I forgive you. You were a boy. You were just a boy. He was just a boy. I forgive you. That is the hardest thing to do. And I have to forgive a lot of people because a lot of things have happened to me. So here's an ironic thing. The logo of the Costa Rican Humanitarian Foundation, if you've seen it, it's 4 hearts, 1, 2, 3, 4, with the pointies pointing in to the middle. And so I said, what does this mean? Well, it means north, south, east, and west, Costa Rica in the middle. People will come to Costa Rica. And then I said, no, it means corn, beans, wheat, and rice, the 4 foods. And then I said, wait a minute, let me think this through again. Earth, wind, fire, and water, the elements. It keeps going. And then I got to a horse with 4 legs that's stable and works. The latest one is body, mind, heart, and soul. So take this spiral and look at what happened. Body, food, housing, healthcare. Mind, health, education, training, microenterprise, community development. Heart, mind and heart empathy. Guess where I'm going? Heart and soul compassion. Who would have imagined that all of this would have come together? And this whole thing came together because of these talks that I gave with these volunteers. And every time I gave a talk, I would say, wait a minute, there's something else I can add. So I've given this talk to thousands of youth of the United States and Europe. Sometimes it seeks in, sometimes they roll their eyes. Sometimes they go, she's really crazy. I don't care. But this is it. So this is exactly what I do every single day, every single day. And everything that I do is based on true planning, believe it or not. Here's a chart with all the things that we're doing. It's going to come out backwards, but look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages of concrete, specific activities that we have done in this country in the last year, specifically during a pandemic. Did I get COVID? No. The people of the Carpio say God protects me. I got a lot of people praying for me, but I also take really, really good care, and they take really good care of me. I mean, they don't come, you know, we always distance, we always wash our hands. Everybody has a mask. I go shorter hours. I go home in the height of COVID. I go home and swim in the chlorine swimming pool, take a hot shower, breathe the vapors of the teas and all this, you know, this stuff. Drink hot tea, take lemons. I did all kinds of things to protect myself, and it worked. So I'm gonna stop talking for a bit, and I think, let me see what I have here on this. If I started going into this, we'd be here 10 hours, so I'm not going to do that, but just trust me that there is stuff going on in every single one of those areas, and we need help in every single one of those areas, and we need financing, because we lost all our financing because the volunteers were the ones who financed the projects. So we have one donor. I guess he wants to remain anonymous, but the guy picked up the payment for 2 teachers and the soccer coach and the rental of one of our buildings. And then every month he gives me an extra $1,000, praise the Lord, so that I can help the lady pay her rent or buy diapers for the girl that doesn't have any money, and you know, just these little expenses that add up. And my dad knows, because he's a poor thing. I'm always like, I ran out of money again. And he thinks, oh no. But it's just, if you were sitting there facing a man from Nicaragua who fled for his life to come here and is living on the street, and he says, I just need a blanket. I'm not going to say, sorry, you know, no blanket. I'm going to go to Pequeño Mundo. I'm going to pick up a 3,000 cologne blanket. And I'm going to bring it to him. So this is how the money sort of, you know, the drip and drip part of the money. But it's all so blessed and so wonderful. Okay, now I really will stop talking, Sarah.
Well, thank you. I mean, it's an amazing, long and wonderful story. And I guess what I want to know on behalf of the PWNCR, what can we do to help? If I donate $20 today, where will that likely go?
Food.
Okay, that's the first.
And the Auto Mercado gives us fruits, vegetables, and bread, but they don't give us rice and beans. And so every Friday we have, if anybody wants to collect food, that's easy, right? That's an easy one, and we'll come pick it up, because they need rice. They're used to rice, and they don't feel full if they're eating a zucchini. They'll eat the zucchini and be happy with it, but they need rice. I need a lot of rice and beans. So $20 will definitely go to food. or
Okay.
diapers, food or diapers, or maybe like something like vitamins for someone who's really not doing well physically. We give them vitamins, and what we do is they take half a vitamin every other day, so the bottle lasts longer.
And in terms of some of the sustainable projects like the handicrafts, I know we had initially intended to have a full booth at our goods and services fair, but since that'll be virtual, if we can, we will make sure that they're included. How would we get those things? Could we pay shipping to have certain items delivered?
We'll bring it to you. You all live in Costa Rica. We'll just run it over there. We have 3 drivers, me and 2 others. We'll just take it to you. Just tell me what you want, and we'll take it over there, and you can pay me in the moment.
Okay, so in terms of the handicrafts and stuff, we can definitely share that around as well.
Okay.
Who else has questions? Let's open it up to anybody else who would like to unmute and ask a question.
Yeah, are you part of the approved government, I don't know what you call it, 530C thing for the US government?
Okay, so our legal infrastructure is perfect in Costa Rica. This is amazing. Every single year I make like, oh my God, it's a huge report to Hacienda, the tax people. And it's at the point now where when I turn in my report, they go, oh my gosh, approved. I mean, they used to come to visit, they read everything, but then they write out a report about what we do. And at the bottom, they say, this organization has the right to tax exempt donations. So that's in Costa Rica. To have it in the States, I could not get a 501(c)(3) in the States because I'm not there. And it's complicated. So we have a sister organization, which is fantastic. It's called Wells Mountain Initiative, WMI. Look it up online. They do amazing work with youth in Africa. Hello. And they receive donations for us and send it to us without charging any what do you call, administrative fee. And then you get a tax exempt letter from them in the name of us.
Great. That's good to know.
Yeah. It's on the.
And can we get your phone number, Gail? Can we get your personal phone number so that we can phone you and talk to you?
It's 8390-4192.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. It's usually good to call me early in the morning or in the afternoon, because during the day I've got one thing after another happening. And if I'd say I can't talk now, I'll get back to you.
Gail, I've got a question for you. I'm Michelle Gabriel, and can you give us an idea just of what it costs you to do the things that you do on a monthly basis? Can you give us some idea of what that looks like in terms of costs for you to do what you do?
Sure. Yeah, and I have 100% transparency on my financing.
Right.
I use Quicken. Dad taught me to use Quicken. I love it. And I do a report every year and share it with all the people of La Carpio, anyone who wants to come, so they can see where the money is and comes and goes. So in our highest, when we had 8 schools going and all that, it was $10,000 a month.
Okay.
Now it's way cut back. Because, okay, so we get 2,000 from the donor, 2,500 from the donor. And then beyond that, I'm spending around $3,000.
Okay.
And we have an accountant who, I do all the Quicken, I give that to her. She translated into Costa Rican accounting methods, which I don't know, it's beyond me, but anyways, and that's what we give. Also, Scotiabank is the bank we use, the principal bank. And Scotia, I don't know if any of you are using Scotiabank, but they've decided they're gonna trap those drug dealers like me. They're on my case all the time for paperwork, for, proving this, proving that, and I always pass. I mean, they, but it's just, they're having to do due diligence because of SUHEF. So,
But it's about 10,000 a month. If you were doing everything that you'd like to be doing and maybe a little some more, we're looking at about what, $120,000 a year for you
Yes.
to do what you do, right?
yes,
That's really helpful because it gives us an idea of, what you need and what needs to happen in order for that. So right now you're at about, well, you're less than half,
Right.
right?
Right.
In terms of what you can do and want to do. Okay, that's really helpful, Gail, and amazing work.
The
I've
other
never
thing I
heard
want to tell you is
before. You're incredible.
no one, our charter, our founding papers, there is no employee. There is no such thing as an employee, including me. I make zero salary off of the foundation because the Nystrom family, my great-grandfather, invested in a piece of land in 40 or something, on the main strip to New York City. And so I get every 3 months a stipend as part of the family. So that's what I live on. Plus, I just got Social Security, yay. So I get $600 a month Social Security. So that's what I lived off of. I've never taken a penny of a salary. Because why? Because how could I go into a community like La Carpio and see a woman living in a shack made out of cardboard, and I live in a house in Escazú that the foundation is paying for? That made no sense to me. I use only ropa americana. I buy 2 pairs of shoes a year. And my big luxury is my sister sends me oil of Olay twice a year. That's my luxury.
Incredible.
Guess how old I am?
71.
Oh, you guessed. No, 70. Most people say 50, 60.
No, just from you dated yourself. You definitely don't
I
look
know.
that.
Yeah, I did date myself. Yeah, yeah.
Alegria, you had a question?
Yes. Okay. I really enjoyed your talk, Gail, and
Thank
it's
you.
wonderful work that you're doing. I was wondering, are you connected at all with any government agency? When you talk about eradicating poverty, I mean, you're doing it like, one person, one community at a time, but it's such a huge problem. Is there any connection to something that would be more systemic that you could?
Okay.
Mhm.
So I just read the statistics. We're up to 23%
Right.
poverty in Costa Rica, and I know that. However, well, okay, so some of you are Costa Rican. There's a hesitance to embrace people from outside that are doing things, I think, here. I think most of us who are, non-Costa Ricans who live here have felt some little bit of resistance. And the problem too is, like, let's say the PANI, okay? The child welfare. The PANI would come to our center in the Carpio and don't tell anybody, but they would close it because we only have one exit, because we only have one toilet, because we only have, this and that and the other thing. And legally, they would have to close it. And there's no other infrastructure in the Carpio that meets the requirements. So I kind of keep under the radar, actually, intentionally, because, just because it's hard for us to come together. I'd be very willing to work. Like, it's so funny, like the PANI will call me and they'll go, we have a family in the Carpio where there's abuse. Would you go over and check it out? So
Wow.
I go check it out for
So
them.
they definitely use you as a resource.
Yeah, and ENAMU uses me as a resource. The social workers at the hospital use this as a resource because they cannot buy a basic food basket for a family.
Right. Yeah. You do things they can't do.
Exactly. And so it's benign neglect. They leave me alone, I leave them alone, and we all get along well.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Yeah.
Too bad it has to be that way, but I guess in some ways it has to be that way.
I mean, the thing is, if I try to work with the government, I'd have to wear high heels. And I have tennis shoes.
Well, not quite. I wish it were that simple, but all the red tape, all the
Yeah.
regulations they have
Yeah.
to deal with. Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, any other?
I think we had a question from
Yes,
Gabriela.
I have a question. So the definite conclusion would be that the increase in poverty is an increase, a lack of empathy, right? There's no other way of seeing it. I mean, it's horrible, but I totally agree with you with
Yes,
that.
yes.
Mhm.
It's like people say, oh, look at that poor. No, what people say is, oh, those Nikas are living on the street and they're murdering everybody. I mean, it's like, no, hello, meet the Nikas that I work with. You know, like, yeah. So you're right. It's a lack of empathy, and maybe it's not even possible to go up to compassion. I don't know. It's like seeing the other as a fearful entity, not seeing the other as a reflection of who I am.
Exactly.
By the way,
Very, very sad.
I have 20 books written about each of the phases of my life. This is the women's book. Look at this one. This one is the street kids book. This one is the Nicaraguan refugee book. I have the books about the children, and they're all waiting to be published. And it's like this. Those books are, what I gave you right now was the synopsis of the writings that I've been doing all over the years.
Yes, very, very, very sad. And I mean, poverty will always be part of life. But
Yeah.
but I do see a big increase in lack of empathy. Really, that is something that is terrible now. People have become like immune to things, It really doesn't get to them anymore.
And Gabby, I've worked with volunteers since, when did I start with volunteers? Like, I guess 96. And the deterioration of the empathy of those groups is shocking. I mean, I tried 4 groups this summer. This summer period, it was horrible. It was really bad. I could not, they just weren't interested in anything. They're from the States. They're scared, they're not getting their new tennis shoes delivered on the boats. I mean, I don't know. It's really not good.
Very, very scary.
Yeah. Okay, so I think the time is up, but I want to close with this background thing. I don't know if any of you have seen one of these before. I got this when I went to the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. I was so perturbed by that. I've always followed Holocaust readings. I just, somehow it always appealed to me or called me. And as a result of going to that museum, there was an exhibit where they had the shoes piled up. And I vowed to come back to Costa Rica and give 3 million pairs of shoes out before I die. And I started a campaign, and in the first year we gave out 10,000 pairs of shoes. Every time I give out a shoe, it's in honor of those people of the camps. And then the picture, you've seen the picture of the men in the bunk bed, the starving men in the bunk bed. So I said, we're going to make bunk beds. And we've given out over 6,000 bunk beds. And it's always in honor of that situation. And I always tell the recipients the story of the Holocaust because they don't know about it. No one knows about it here. So this poster is the one that has that saying, whoever destroys a single life destroys the entire world. Whoever saves a single life saves the world entire. And we are saving lives. We really are. Yeah. And this poster hangs in my office. This is my office, sort of my office.
Thank you, Gail. Thank you so very much.
Okay.
I've put in the chat the donation page for the Costa Rican Humanitarian Foundation, and it's very important that you do let us know at PWNCR when you've made that donation so we can keep track. And we will continue on with the campaign through this year. And also, let's see, I did mention in the email, and I want to mention again, not all donations are monetary. So if you don't have the money, or if you have a particular skill, you can reach out directly to Gail, and she will let you know how those skills can be put to use. If you have time and you have the willingness, I mean, more volunteers, with the lack of volunteers coming from the States is a huge thing as well.
Just quickly about the donations. I have 2 waiting list women. One is a woman who, if the babies are born with defects, they don't give them to the La Carpia women until they have a decent house. So this woman came to me and she's got a 200,000 cologne fix up for her house. She needs to fix up her house. If she does that, she'll receive her baby. And she's really a competent woman. She can definitely take care of the baby. They teach them what to do. I have babies there with feeding tubes and breathing things and total cerebral palsy cases. And they keep them alive and they love them. So that's one. And then the other one is a woman who lives down by the river and she can't get to her house unless she goes through a neighbor's house, and the neighbors closed off the exit. So the way that she has to go to the house is she has to climb down in the river and then climb up around. So she needs a walkway to get to her house. So those are the 2 that I'm working on right now. And then when they're done, I'll do another one. There's always one more. But anyway, so your money will go, your PWC money will go definitely to the lady with the baby that will get her baby. As soon as the house is fixed up, she's going to get her baby. So that's my first priority. And then always, I need money for food. I've got a little bit of a debt going on in the supermarket downstairs. They're really good with us. But when Friday comes along, we got to have rice and beans, and we have to buy it sometimes. And I will send pictures to Sarah of the lady when she gets her house, or the person when they get their food. So, and she can send them out to you all if you want.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Gail.
Okay. Thank you.
And wow, we almost kept to an hour, so congratulations on that.
Good job. Okay.
I will say I have little cards with everybody's names on them. So really quickly, I'm just gonna pick one for a 2022. We have Phyllis, who is going to be our winner for a 2022 membership in the PWNCR. So thank you, everybody. If Gail, can you stay on a couple more minutes in case people have a couple more questions?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So if anybody else has questions, you can unmute. But Michaela says, powerful, heart-opening presentations. Blessing to you, Gail.
Thank you. Yeah. I definitely know that I'm protected. I just, even from the beginning with COVID, my son, poor Francisco, he was like, Mom, stay home. I said, no, I don't need to stay home. And I'm okay, you know? And I just don't think it's my time yet. I've still got the books to publish. That's my big goal. If I get those books published, man, that's going to be a big deal. Very important. So I can't leave yet.
Wonderful. I guess I was curious, like, so as a foundation, you do have a board, you have, a number of
Yeah, we have
people.
to have everything. Yeah, we have to have every single requirement. But I'll tell you that we do have 2 vacancies in the board because one of the women moved to the States and the other woman can't do it anymore. So I do need 2 new members, and I'm trying, I don't know who to I don't know who to go for, but it's a 5-person board. It's myself, Sarah Bisans, and Chris Thomas, a teacher of Country Day. They've been with us from the beginning. And so I have 2 more that I need to pick up.
And so what qualities would the ideal board member have? Since we have some wonderful women here.
A lot of patience. A lot of patience. And I appreciate Chris. Chris is kind of my psychologist, you know. I call her up, I go, oh, guess what happened? You know, and then she says, okay, calm down. And problem solving. Sarah is the one that does a lot of the computer assistance and, you know, helps out with technical problems. I probably need somebody that could do fundraising. That would be okay to do fundraising. That would be helpful. And I have to find someone younger, and I have to find a male, I think. So that's why I haven't filled it, because I can't, the right person, I know the right person will land in the right time, but not yet.
Oh, wonderful. Any other burning questions for Gail?
Nobody's leaving.
Well, thank you so much, Gail. We certainly appreciate your willingness to come and share, and we're very grateful for all the work that you do and looking forward to helping support you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and I like your organization a lot. I think that, you know, I was years ago, I think I gave a talk, a long time ago, and you're growing, and I think it's an important organization for women in this country, you know, to support each other with their endeavors and their businesses and all their situations, like where to eat lunch. I saw that a lot on the WhatsApp. So it's good. Okay.
Oh, sorry, goal.
I'm reading.
The goal, and we're setting it at $500, and we hope to exceed that goal significantly. So let's see how we do.
Right now, if I had $500 right now, I would pay for that house, and I would spend the rest on food baskets for Friday. It would be gone in a day. But that's also, my accountant always says, Gail, you're always at zero at the end of the month. And I go, of course. Why should I have more than zero? I mean, if I don't have zero, I haven't done my job. So.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, Gail.
Okay.
Excuse me, but do we have information on where we could send money like right now?
I'll send it to your WhatsApp, but
Yeah.
I did. I think I put it in the link here.
Yeah, Scotiabank would be the best because it's the most agile, and we have $1 and a Cologne account in Scotia.
Do you have any other bank? That's the one.
Yeah, I have Banco Nacional.
Do we have that information by any chance?
Yes, it's
or Sinpe. Do you use Sinpe Móvil?
I don't know how. Can you believe it? I don't know, but I have received Sinpe donations.
Yeah, it's real easy. You just link your phone number to your bank account, and then people can send you money through just by your phone number.
I think the 1297 Scotia account does have it. 1297 is the $1 account.
Okay, well, we can try it.
Which phone number? You have link.
your same phone
Need a
number.
phone number that's linked.
8390-4192.
That same phone number is the one that would be linked?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the only phone number. Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
See,
great.
I am old fashioned in a way, but also I think it's very important to me. I do all my banking by going to the bank and getting the cash. because in the Carpio, I can only use cash anyway. And they all know me. All the people in the banks know me. And they always ask, how did it work out with that project that you were doing? You know, it's very cool. I involve the banking people in the projects. It's fun.
That's great.
Okay, well, I did send out the links in the email for any donations. I will be sure to send them out again. They'll be on Facebook, they'll be in WhatsApp. So
Okay.
thank you
Great.
for asking that question. It's a good one. Oh, we have Mooney asking a question as well. If we have another moment.
I have a question. Have you contacted EPA or El Agar or Colono so they can donate materials for your projects? They have social programs. Maybe they can, you know, alleviate their guilt or something.
No, I haven't. My my philosophy is to support local businesses, and in the Carpio, there's a lot of ferreterias.
No, I was thinking about donations for the
Of,
project.
Oh,
Like in
money.
Lagar, sometimes, yeah, sometimes Lagar has some things that are broken in the tip and they have to sell for very inexpensive. People won't buy them because they're not perfect. The same as Automercado. Sometimes those big ferreterias have products that are a bit
That would be fantastic.
imperfect.
Yeah, who has time? That would be a really good idea. That would be a really good idea to do that. I have a relationship with the one here in Santa Ana. I have credit. They give me credit because, you know, I might need to do something today and I know money's coming in next week. And so they give me a leeway. But I never asked them for like flat out donations.
El Colono is huge and El Lagar is also very
Yeah. El Colono we used for we had a grant from the Japanese government to build clinics up in the Indian Reserve. And we used El Colono and they were great. They were really nice. So, okay, let me look into that. That's a good idea. I'm gonna write it down.
I love the brainstorming. Alegria, did you have another question?
No, I'm all set. Thanks.
Okay.
Wonderful. I'm gonna spread out the info about how to donate, and we are very honored to be able to help, Gail. So we'll
Thank you.
look forward to that.
Yeah, thank you. Every time I get a donation, I go, yay, I can do this thing that I didn't get to do, or I can do, you know, it's like so, even, you know, to know that we have rice for Friday. I mean, it's just, it's what keeps me going. And it's not, I was telling Sarah, oh God, I'm going to get into a long story. But I was telling Sarah, you know, you get these emails where you see this baby dying, you know, in some country and you go, oh, like, what, you know, but here it's like you see it, you know it, and you know it's going to make someone's life better and they're not going to, the goal is that they never come back and ask again, you know, and that's happening. I mean, we've worked with thousands of people and we don't get thousands of people coming back.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to
I have
make
another idea.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah,
Sorry,
go
one
for
more
it.
idea. Gail,
Yeah.
have you contacted Belka or Maika? Huge food services. Sometimes their bags of rice and beans, they provide food for restaurants and hotels. But most of those big places won't receive something that looks ugly. So if the bag is ripped or, you know, or something happened with the label, things like that, sometimes they donate those foods that are already packaged. They're in good condition. And Belka's right there in Belka and Maika are around the world, or the country, but Belka, the big
What is it,
office is in
Belka?
Belén. Belka. Oh, here, I'll write it down.
Oh, it's in Belen.
Yeah,
Like the food service that
Yeah,
services the restaurants and stuff.
yeah. And they have sometimes restaurants just return the bags because they're ripped and they can't receive it.
Ah, that's perfect.
So-
That's right up our alley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't know how you get on.
So just to clarify, one quick point is that the Professional Women's Network is a network. We don't receive any donations, and that's why when we do our fundraisers, we give you directly the information of how to donate to the foundation, to the nonprofit, and then we just keep track of it on our side. So that's why there's one little extra step. So we want you to donate directly to the Costa Rican Humanitarian Foundation and then let the PWNCR know so that we can kind of track where we are towards our goal.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, so many good ideas and connections. Mhm.
There's a note here to email the Scotiabank information, but you have that, right, Sarah?
Yeah, I just WhatsApp that directly to Kyra. So
Okay.
now I will put the link there as well.
Okay. Okay. Wow. Well, it was great to talk to you all, and I look forward to our continued relationship on WhatsApp. So you can tell me where I should go for lunch.
Absolutely. Well,
We
thank
need to
you
just treat
so much.
you to lunch.
And we do have, by the way, in case, I know people have carpiophobia. I understand that. But we do have a program called ICI, ICI, which is Instituto Capiano de Idiomas. And we are teaching every person that crosses our paths English. And it's a blast. You go there and their kids come in and you talk to them, you get a book, you read with them, you write down vocabulary, you share. It's really fun. Maybe when the pandemic is more under control, you might think about that. And the kids are, oh my God, they're so much fun to be with. They're so cute. Okay.
And I have one last question before you go. I'm sorry. Do you work with
Oh, I love
other
it.
organizations in La Carpio?
Do I do what?
Work with other organizations in La Carpio, like the ones that do music and things like that?
So CIFIs is the organization that it's Costa Rican run. Yeah, it's in there. They have similar goals, but it's different. So they have their thing, we have our thing. It's a little bit different.
Okay, so we probably should wrap up because we're now 20 minutes over, but thank you so very much, Gail. And thank you
Okay.
everyone for your wonderful questions.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Thank you so much for your attention and your practice me giving the talk, because I'm going to be giving this talk a lot. If you know anybody that wants this talk, I'll go. High school.
Great.
I adapt to my audience.
Perfect. Yeah. My kid's school might be a good option. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So we close out now.
Yep. Happy Saturday. Talk to you
Bye.
soon.
Good rest of the
Bye-bye.
day.
Have a good weekend.
All right. Bye-bye.